Hey everybody, welcome to Hearing God in First John chapter 3. And my highlight for today is verse 18. It's a very short, simple, but impactful verse that says, "Little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth." And so here the Apostle John continues to address the false teaching of Gnosticism that had crept into the church. And again, Gnostics believed that we know God through the special knowledge that's already residing within us and not through the substitutionary atonement of Jesus Christ, his death on the cross for our sins. And so, a very different teaching in regard to how we know God. And Gnostics also believed in a philosophical dualism where physical matter is bad, but the spirit or the spiritual is good. And so, with this dualism, anything that we do in the body, it doesn't really matter because it's separate from our spirit. And of course, that's another very different teaching than Orthodox Christianity. And so, to counteract such teaching, John gives several checkpoints that contrast with the beliefs of Gnosticism, checkpoints for us to affirm whether or not we're in the faith and for them to be able to discern when there is this false teaching that is present in the church. And so he gives a checkpoint in the first half of the chapter, which is the pursuit of righteous living. So it will be important to a child of God to constantly pursue holiness. They will not have an appetite or a desire to sin. Sin will make them sick with conviction. And yes, there will be times when we sin, but it won't be a pattern for which we do not battle and that ever become comfortable with. Which again, very different than the dualism of Gnosticism, which says, it's your physical body, whatever happens, happens, not that big a deal. Big deal when it comes to being a true believer. And then here in the second half of chapter 3, this second checkpoint is love for others. And so a pursuit of holiness and a love for others are some important checkpoints to see if someone is in the faith. And here in verse 18, it's important to note that love is defined as both truth and action, both truth and action. And it reminds us that anybody can say, I love you, but it's their actions which are really going to tell the tale. True love always shows itself through loving deeds. But I think it's important to note here as well that these deeds are rooted in what is true. And so if my deeds are simply to appease or to go along, to get along, and that's not consistent with truth, then that's not really love, as the Bible defines it. And so in my application, ask the question of myself, am I known for loving actions? Is this the definition of my life? Is this how I am known? And I confess that left to myself, I can be very self-focused and not the kind of love defined in verse 16, just two verses above this, where it says, by this we know love, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers. Now, I think sometimes we can excuse ourselves by saying, well, that's like jumping on a grenade to save somebody else's life, laying down our lives for others, or being crucified the way Jesus was crucified. Um, and that's true. That's an example, an extreme example of that. But I think we too easily let ourselves off the hook and say, you know what, there are probably going to be dozens of ways that I can lay down my life today for someone else, that I can put someone else's interests ahead of my own. And that's certainly true in a marriage, certainly true in a family relationship in a home. It's true at work. It's true at school. How can I find those opportunities, recognize those opportunities to sacrifice for someone else, to put them ahead of myself? And how is God calling me to lay down my life for someone else today? And so, in response, Father, thank you that I am your child. Thank you for the assurance of salvation you have given to me in my heart. May my identity as your child lead to a greater pursuit of righteousness and of loving others. And so, I pray that you will join me in the pursuit of that question. How is God calling me? How is God calling you to lay down your life for someone else today? So thank you again for joining me today in First John chapter 3. Look forward to joining you again soon.